Okay, so the question basically is the bike still everything that I first thought it was? So I'm not going to go over it and all the specs and everything. If you want to see that, go back, and I did a 600-mile review on the bike right after I got it and put 600 miles on it. So what has changed since then to now as far as anything? Do I like the bike? Do I love the bike? Whatever the case may be. So we're going to go over that, so stick around. So if you're thinking about buying a 390 Enduro, this is my honest review for 2,000 miles. Okay, if you follow the channel, you know that I did a 600-mile review. Some may question the sanity or the logic of reviewing a bike, car, or any other vehicle at 600 miles. However, I stand by my logic that within 600 miles of riding or driving a vehicle, you will pretty much be informed on an opinion on whether you like it or not. Now, with that reason being said, it doesn't have anything to do with the mechanics because it's way too soon to make that determination. Since I already included the specs review on a previous video, I will spare you of going through all of that again. So let's get down to the brass tacks on this KTM 390. I purchased the bike back in December of 25 and rolled it out the door for $6,750. Since I had already paid Georgia sales taxes on the 2022 KLR 650, the Venture that I traded in, the trade value knocked down the new sales tax on the KTM. I might also add that in December, I got whacked with a tariff charge of an additional $549. So, pre-tariff, the out the door, the price would have been even less. So what kind of bike did I get for the $6,750 price tag? Even though the bike is marketed as an Enduro, let's call it what it truly is. It's really a lightweight adventure bike. At 363 pound stock, that's a little heavy for the Enduro class. However, coming off a third generation KLR that weighed slightly over 500 pounds, the 390 still feels like a mini bike. When I completed the initial 600-mile review, most of those miles were on local dirt roads with some pavement thrown in between the dirt roads. I really didn't have a feel for the power nor the suspension. Since that review, I've taken the bike on rides to the mountains of West Virginia, North Carolina, North Georgia, and on the Dirt Devil in Tennessee. So now that I have a better understanding of the power of the bike as well as for the suspension, let's get into it. So okay, let's start with the engine power. For my riding style, the 44 horsepower is plenty for me. At 65 years old, I'm pretty much a dirt road, forest service road, and backcountry pavement road rider. In my opinion, that is exactly what this bike is designed for. Can it do single track? Absolutely, with the right rider who likes to ride more aggressively. The issue basically lies within the lower power band with this bike. There isn't a lot of grunt at lower RPMs. This machine likes operating in the upper RPMs of the power band. Some riders have advised that they've installed 13-tooth sprockets, programmers, and doing the cat delete because it improves the power. In my opinion, other than ditching the stock tires on any machine, you shouldn't have to dig deeper into your pocket to get more out of the bike that you're buying.
It took me a second. I'm like, all right, this doesn't make sense. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm in street mode. So note to self, unless you're just going to do super long stretches of highway, don't go in street mode.
Speaking of the power band, I'm not sure why KTM did a street in and off-road mode for this bike. The mapping of the street mode is pure garbage. Lackluster power is an understatement. Recently, I stopped on a gently sloped rock road in a residential neighborhood, which you saw just prior to this clip, and I'd forgotten that I had put the bike in a street mode with the traction control on. The bike kept stalling with the rear tire barely turning. Once I remembered that I'd forgotten to switch over to the off-road mode, the bike took off and performed like it should. I've never taken it out of off-road mode since. The difference between the two mapping modes is incredible. Now for the suspension. I haven't adjusted it or even set the sag since I wheeled it off the showroom floor. At 260 pounds on a bad day, the stock suspension is more than adequate for my style of riding. I don't understand why people would go out, buy this bike, and immediately upgrade to a $1,200 aftermarket rear shock.
I've rode some of the gnarly forest roads with 20 pounds of gear strapped to the rear, and I've had no issues with the suspension. Would I bottom out the suspension by jumping and hitting serious ruts with my weight? Absolutely. Again, that's not my style of riding.
All right, so let's go over the maintenance. Basically, I haven't done any maintenance other than the oil changes that have been required. I did my first oil change at about 300 miles because I was a little bit concerned about people finding some metal shavings in the screens. I took mine, drained everything, just a few little pieces of metal slivers, and that was it. I once again changed the oil at about 630 miles. No oil slivers in it at all. I changed the oil again at 1,200 miles, and once again, no oil slivers or shivers of metal or anything at all. So the oil is running fine. The consumption is fine. It is not burning oil. The oil changes aren't very expensive. It's just a matter of ordering the proper paper gasket that fits this specific model, because it's not a rubber O-ring like 390 Dukes are. So if you haven't done your oil change yet, just do a little research, and I will try to put a link as far as the part number for you to order the new gasket. Let's talk about the Metzler Carews that came stock with the Enduros. Couple things. Great street tire. Good on hard packed gravel and dirt. Horrible on mud. Like I said, it's right at 2,000 miles, and you can see the tread is basically shot. But, you know, the weird thing about it is the lugs on these are very shallow to begin with when they come off the showroom floor. So they're not a deep set of lugs, but they are great road tires because they're super quiet. You can't even hear them. But in mud, absolutely horrible. So I do have a brand new Dunlop 606 ready to go on the rear. I just haven't put it on yet because it's been like in the mid 90s, upper 90s, and even with a fan, I'm not ready to struggle with this. But this will be going on before our next long ride. The front tire is still the stock Metzler Carew, and it's pretty much about shot. And I'll just do a little comparison here. The tire that I've got there, and I'm not going to put this on, this is a Ankry Wild Adventure tire that I got for 60 bucks brand new. I was originally going to put on a KLR. I sold the KLR. So it would be a great street tire. So if I was planning on doing a lot of road riding, I would probably throw this tire on the front. But I am going to go with the Pirelli MT21 on the front. So replacing the OEM skid plate, I went with a Molecule skid plate. So the Molecule skid plate, this one here, I don't know if it was just bad molding or what the case. I did a video on it. I actually bought it through Vanash Motorsports. And I got to say one thing, Vanash stepped up to the plate and did the right thing, because the skid plate just never fit right in the first place. And I got it on right before the North Carolina trip. As you can see, it's twisted because the front of the plate was riding about 1/4 of an inch from the header. As you can see on that ride, the header actually melted the plate. So every time the guys were behind me would stop, they would smell burning plastic. And it warped the plate. So I reached out to Vanash. Vanash is just a distributor. So they reached out to Molecule for me, who makes these plates. And Molecule did the right thing. In about a week after reaching out to Vanash, Molecule sent me a brand new skid plate. All right, so the Molecule skid plate is nice. It offers full protection, and this new one fits perfect. As you can see, there's plenty of room between the header and the plate. So I have ran this up in Tennessee, and no issues at all. And on Molecule, they do send you a beefed up bracket on the front that you replace with the, remove the stock bracket and put this new one. It's a little bit beefier. So it may help you as far as if you want to use a center jack, because the stock bracket is just really flimsy metal. All right, so also what I did was I installed the T-Rex racing bars. Pretty nice bars. They come in either orange or black. I put them on. They come in a crossbar for the brace here in the middle. They bolt right up to the frame. Everything works good, and even though it's a tight fit, they still do fit with the Molecule skid plate. So the only other things I've done so far to the bike, I did get a aftermarket luggage rack. It came from India. I can't even tell you the brand. It was the only thing I could find at the time, and has been working pretty good. And I did add a Tusk Olympus small tank bag on there. So it works great, great product. I did do a video on the installation of the Tusk bag. Other than that, I replaced the stock mirrors with some off of Amazon. These were like 50 bucks for the pair. And I got to tell you what, man, they work perfect. No vibration or anything. They collapse if you want, whatever the case may be. So for $50, it was a great buy.
Take a look because I ain't sure which
Okay, so obviously everything's not perfect with this bike. However, for me, it's turned out to be the perfect bike. The only really complaint that I have centers around the same issue, and that is the small 2.4 gallon fuel tank along with a non-existent fuel gauge. However, once you get settled in with the bike, you will learn your riding range with your style of riding. I've learned to start looking for gas stations at the 100-mile mark. By 120 miles, you should be sweating it if you haven't found fuel. Each time that I've checked the fuel mileage range, it's been between 56 to 61 miles per gallon. On our North Carolina ride, Dallas filled up his 2025 390 Adventure each time that I filled up the Enduro. Even with the Adventure model being about 20 pounds heavier than Enduro and the fact that I weigh at least 55 to 60 pounds more than Dallas, we always put in the same exact amount of fuel in each fill-up. This made both of us feel good knowing that the motors were spot on in consistency of fuel consumption. But don't fret, the motorcycle gods have finally listened, and I'm going to butcher this, it's either Jeebus or it looks like Acerbis, I can't pronounce it, Italian company. They have announced that they are coming out with a 4.5 gallon fuel tank for the Enduro. They assert that the tank weighs less than the stock tank and it is compatible with a stock fuel pump and the fancy fuel gauge sensor that comes with the stock tank. The USA Corporation advised me that they should have the tanks in stock by the end of August or mid-September. My response? Take my money, baby. Overall, my thoughts have not changed one bit since this 600-mile review. I fully understand the lack of low-end power. I know not to ever rely on the street mode for power. The stock seat is still more than sufficient for a 65-year-old ass. The ride-in ergonomics for a 6'1" rider is fine on long rides in the saddle. Dropping down from a 500-pound motorcycle to say around a 375-pound motorcycle, including the add-ons, still makes the bike feel like I'm riding a mini bike. Let's hope that this bike is still around for the 10,000-mile review.
This place, holy shit. Nice.